All right. Welcome back, everyone, to the Bacolod City Labor Partnership Podcast. We're doing another one of these deep dives today. And this one is, well, pretty wild.
Yeah.
So we're talking about a potential audit of Fort Knox, all that gold.
Right.
We got all these articles from MSN, The Hill, Fox 17, and even Security Boulevard.
Wow. That's quite a range.
It is. And like the whole idea of somebody going in and checking on all that gold, I mean, that's pretty fascinating.
Definitely grabs your attention.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I think what's really making people talk is this whole thing with, what is it, D.O.G.E?
D.O.G.E, yeah, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah, D.O.G.E, and I know I saw some stuff connecting it to Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah, you'll see that out there. But that's where this, the satire part of this comes in. D.O.G.E isn't our real government agency.
So it's not?
Nope. And Elon Musk's not running it or anything like that.
Okay, so D.O.G.E is like made up, but people are treating it seriously.
Exactly. It's like this big thought experiment playing out in the news, and yeah, some folks are taking it seriously. Senator Rand Paul, for example.
Oh, yeah, I remember hearing about him in this.
He's actually called for D.O.G.E to investigate the gold at Fort Knox.
Really?
Yeah, which is interesting, right?
It is. I mean, why is he so focused on this?
Well, he's always been big on government transparency.
Makes sense.
So his view is if the government has these assets, especially something as valuable as gold, the public should know it's being taken care of.
I can see that.
And then you've got all those conspiracy theories, about gold missing from Fort Knox.
Right.
This kind of taps into all that too.
So you've got a fake agency maybe auditing a legendary gold reserve. I mean, that's already crazy.
Yeah.
But then these articles start talking about what D.O.G.E might do, like the information they might access, talking about the IRS, even paper checks. I mean, it makes you wonder, what are the implications here?
Yeah, I think that's a really valid concern, and that's where things get even more interesting. People who are criticizing this whole D.O.G.E scenario are worried about unintended consequences.
Like what?
Well, they're worried about program cuts, especially with that, kind of jokey connection to Elon Musk.
Right.
And they're worried about conflicts of interest, all sorts of stuff.
I even saw some articles calling this a national cyber attack.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. How does cybersecurity fit into this whole thing?
That's a great question, and it's actually really fascinating. Apparently, the D.O.G.E.gov website, which again is totally made up, was vulnerable.
Vulnerable to what?
To unauthorized edits, basically.
Yeah.
So they're using that to point out a much bigger issue, which is government cybersecurity in general. If a fake agency's website can be messed with that easily, what does that mean for real government systems with, actually important data?
That's a good point. And if anyone's finding this as interesting as I am, I want to remind you guys to check out the Bacolod City Labor Partnership on YouTube and Facebook. We do a lot of deep dives like this into things like government transparency and what it means for you. Okay, so back to this whole Fort Knox situation.
Mm-hmm.
What happens next? Is D.O.G.E actually going to audit Fort Knox? And what's the takeaway for the rest of us?
Well, I think it's pretty unlikely we'll see an actual audit based on, a fictional agency.
Right.
But that doesn't mean this is all just a joke either.
How so?
Because it's gotten people talking about these really important issues like government transparency and cybersecurity, which, we need to talk about more.
Those are big ones for sure.
Huge. Because on the one hand, more transparency can lead to better accountability, more public trust, all that good stuff. But on the other hand, there are risks too. What if pushing for too much transparency ends up making sensitive information vulnerable? Or even, putting national security at risk?
So it's a balancing act.
Exactly. Like what information is actually important for the public to know versus what needs to be kept quiet for, operational security. And then how do we even make sure that the systems we use for transparency are secure themselves?
That's a lot.
It is. It's complex.
It kind of makes you wonder, like, if D.O.G.E was real, how would they handle all of this? What kind of safeguards would they have to put in place?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And it's one that each of us needs to think about as we, consider these issues. There's no easy answer, but at least we're having the conversation. That's a start.
This whole thing has been really insightful. I know I'm going to be looking at news stories about government transparency and cybersecurity differently now. And just a reminder for our listeners, check out the Bacolod City Labor Partnership on YouTube and Facebook. We've got a lot of resources that dive deeper into all of this.
Yeah, people should definitely check that out.
It's a conversation worth having, for sure.
Absolutely. It affects all of us.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise on this.
Happy to do it.
And for our listeners, thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those questions coming, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Bacolod City Labor Partnership Podcast.